don't know if a lot of you knew this, but I have a new hip. It's about a year and a half, almost coming on to 2 years old. So this is something that I need to be always paying attention to. So I'm going to bring you to some of my personal practice with bridging and hip work that I do almost on a daily basis to make sure that I stay nice and strong in my center. We're going to lie on one side of your body. We're working on our hips. Okay, we're going to do lots of different hip options here. So the first thing I'd like you to do is come to a position where your knees are bent 90 degrees in the hips and 90 degrees in the knees. So it's exactly like you're seated on a chair. Engage slightly in the center of your body just so that there's a tension there. It's not so tight that we can't breathe. It's just a tiny bit. Keep your feet in contact with one another. And it's almost like your big toes become the pivot point because you're opening and closing your knee. Just the top knee for now. There might not be a big range of motion. That is absolutely fine. We're trying to keep those hips stacked so nothing is moving there, and we're exploring that full range of motion that's in your hip. And we'll make that our last one. You'll stretch the top leg in front of you. Now this requires quite a lot of mobility in the hamstring. If that's not feeling too comfortable, then you're going to go back this way a little bit. But if you got 90 degrees, let's do it. We're going to lift and lower that leg a little bit higher than parallel. Here we're pressing the heel front as much as you can so that you're feeling the length through the back of the leg. And 10. Good. Rest those legs on top of one another. Good. We have our inner thighs touching one another, and the top foot is looking towards the sky. So we've internally rotated the top leg. This movement is also very small. We're going to lift and lower this leg. It's not about extending the leg all the way up. It is about maintaining that inward rotation though. Check in with your center. Sometimes what happens, at least in my body, is when I internally rotate, I tend to forget about my center. About 9. And good. We're going to bring our feet back now. So the whole legs come back, and now your feet are in line with your seat. Good. Then we open and close again. Your arm can be supporting your head, whatever feels comfortable. Just with a microphone and glasses, this is definitely the best way for me. I'm sure that you're starting to notice that these muscles are getting quite a workout, right? It's normal that it starts to burn as those lactic acid starts to come through. Okay. Now, I'd like you to inwardly rotate here. So the knees are again together. We're holding that nice little shape, and we're going up and down. Good. Now, we're going to take these two shapes. So it's the inward rotation here and the foot, the feet coming together. And we're going to try to make an arc from one to the other. We're lifting and arcing the knees down, lifting and bringing the feet together. And that little lift up before you change is then super interesting. Lift up and down, up and down. Great. Now I'd like you to place your foot, the top foot, onto the floor. So the leg is relatively open and the foot feels solid on the ground. We're working now with this bottom leg. This shape stays the same at the bottom leg. So it's bent, but we lift the bent leg up and down. See if you can press into that foot on the one that's standing on the floor. Now that bottom leg, let's stretch it out long. And again, do the same thing. Now we have a long bottom leg. The top leg is still pressed. Great. Now I'd like you to extend your top leg out long as well, so that both legs are on top of each other stacked. We have a light attention through, again, the center of the body. Double leg lift. We lift them both up and down a bit. So maybe we'll lift them up and almost touch them to the ground before the next one. Here's one where you might want to play with the exact angle of where the legs are. Try it a little bit more front, maybe a centimeter more back, and see where you feel the most challenge in the center of the body and it's not aggravating for your low back. Now we're going to lift and hold it. We hold for 10, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and bring it back down. Well done, everyone. We're going to make the long way over to the other side. We'll do everything, and we have a big stretch at the end. Now, for you at home, do you remember everything? Yes. 90 degrees. I know there's a lot of exercises there. 90 degrees as if you're sitting in a chair. We have our little bit of attention through the center of our body. Hips are stacked. Big toes are the pivot point. We open and close your knee. You might feel like this side gets tired a little bit faster than the other side. It was doing a degree of stabilizing already, so it'd be totally normal if it does. If not, also no problem. Good. Now, we'll stretch that top leg long so that the thighs are stacked on top of each other. Then we lift and lower. We still have that 90-degree angle in the hip joint. Check in. How is the breathing going? All right. Now we will bend your leg. The inner thighs are now touching. We're inwardly rotated at the hip joint. We lift that leg and bring it back down. Now the knees are your magnets. Check in with your shoulders and your neck. And we'll finish this last one. Bring your leg down. Good. We're lining now our feet up with our seat. So bringing the legs back a little bit. Bring attention again through the center of the body. The feet stay together. And we're opening and closing your knee. So every little angle that we can work brings us something new. It's not about doing a perfect position. You know, it's all the range of motions that we can find in the body. There's so many different muscles that we can be working on. Great. Now we go inwardly rotated. So the knees are kissing one another, and we go a little up and down in this one. Also about 10 times. right, now we come through our arc. We're going to lift and touch the feet, then lift and touch the knees. That extra little lift will make it a bit more spicy. And as you're going through, notice if you could even pay attention to how this bone, the femur bone, is moving inside your hip socket. We will do this last one and then stand the foot onto the floor. So it's standing and the bottom leg is bent still. We did a lift and lower of the bent leg. The shape of the leg tries to stay the same. So we're lifting from the thigh. We're lifting from that inner thigh muscle group. Now we will stretch the bottom leg, making a long line through the whole body. Then we lift and lower right there. And you can make, and every single angle that you work that inner thigh group in is great. Okay, now I'd like you to stretch both legs so they're stacked on one another, and we're going into the Pilates exercise double leg lift. We're going to lift and almost touch it down before the next one. You could do this with flex feet, you could do it with point feet, whatever feels good. We're still focusing on our hips and the center of the body. Now I'd like you to lift to your maximum, stack everything up, and we're holding for the last few moments. Take another big breath. Let the air out. And you are done. Bringing your legs back down on the ground. Wonderful. Let's lie on our backs now, and we're getting ready for a stretch. We're going to start by bringing one ankle on top of your thigh. We'll do a couple different hip stretches right here. Ankle on top of your thigh, that might be enough of a stretch right there. Or start to pull your thigh to you with your hands. If you want more intensity to that stretch, you're going to think about lengthening your low spine or press your tailbone down to the floor. We're going to add on to this stretch, so pay attention. We're going to cross the top leg, so you're still overcrossed in that figure 4, but we cross it even more so that your thighs are on top of each other. So it's a very overcrossed position. That might be enough of a stretch. You might also want to pull your thighs towards your chest or even grab a hold of your ankles. Depending on your hips, this might not be pleasant at all. You could stick with the other one. Good. We're going to go to a figure 4 stretch on the other side, bringing your ankle on top of your thigh. Noticing if that's where you want to stay or bringing it in a little bit more. Add more intensity by lengthening your low back. The human brain is so incredible. We could be aware of the sensation of what's happening in the body and still be present in other things. Like maybe you're looking at your ceiling, you're aware of that, or aware of the temperature in your room, how is your breathing, aware of the mat underneath you. Cross the thighs on top of one another. Good, decide if that's a pleasant place to stay. Maybe it's towards the ankles. Any of our Pilates practice, or any actually physical practice, it could be pleasant, unpleasant. That's okay. Uncomfortable is also okay. We always have to explore those boundaries. Let's add one more little stretch for our hips. This one is more like an opening. We're going to take the soles of the feet and bring them together up in the air. Try to grab for the soles of your feet or your ankles. You're pulling your feet or your ankles closer towards your chest. So they're actually close together, like making a diamond shape. And then you keep on pulling in, and maybe you get to a point where your elbows are on your calves or your thighs. So it's like a butterfly stretch, which is what we normally do when we are seated. This is sort of a bound butterfly pose. Good. And then what I like you to do is close your legs, and let's roll ourselves up to a seated position. Let's take a side bend. Good. And then the other side. Good. Your head to one side, just your head. And the other side. Back to the center, lifting your shoulders up as high as you want. Let them drop. 2 more times. Go ahead and stretch your arms out, taking a big breath as you raise up. And let your arms go down. 2 more times. Thank you so much for your hard work. If you have any questions, let me know.